Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today I got a very special guest, Mr. Ryan Klein from Diamond Audio. We dragged him out here to the studio. Actually, we're actually doing some rally stuff, but you know, it's whatever. First of all, how have you been? I know you were on a vacation recently.
I was.
Yeah, what'd you go anywhere cool?
Floating in the middle of the ocean during a hurricane.
Well, you know, that's fun. They rerouted. It was good. So we had a nice little vacation after our Reno rally, and Sam got to join us as well too.
Yeah.
So anyways, so Ryan's here at the studio, and I kind of want to pick his brain. I've been wanting to do this video for a while, just because the new radio that came out, and there's a lot of kind of misconceptions out there. It's been kind of funny watching things done. So let's just jump into it. Let's just talk about candidly. I will tell you, like anything else, everybody knows me, I'm very blunt. I will tell you things I like about it and the things I don't like about it, right?
Sure.
So even though I got a manufacturer here, he might actually have to hear the truth. But it's nice to get a manufacturer's perspective of what was going on with the radio. So let's just talk about it. It's a cool radio.
Yeah.
So what was your concept and vision when you guys reached out and decided to do a radio?
Well, the idea was that we wanted to make something that dropped in the factory location, had the same form factor as the factory radio, and gave you all the features you needed and none of the features you don't need, and on top of that, just make the best sounding radio we could make.
That's a lot of great things. I think there's a lot more to the vision there, but that's okay. In general, that's a basic thing, right? It's kind of funny because in general, I know a lot of things around the radio. So I think you guys know this radio out of the park. I don't think it's gotten the greatest justice in the world. I think there's a lot of jealous people out there and other manufacturers. And that's usually what happens when you're on top of your game, right? People sometimes that we'll talk a little bit about that. We're not worried about that.
Our brand's been built on haters. It's fine.
It's okay. So let's get into this part. And we run into this quite a bit. I've fielded some phone calls to some customers of ours, and they want to know. So let's just clarify what makes it plug and play, because that seems to be a weird misconcept here.
Yeah, I think everyone thinks plug and play is you're just going to plug it in and it's going to work right away. Well, unfortunately for the end consumer, you know, every bike is not created equally, and it uses a computer system called CAN bus that most people are familiar with. If you're not, it's how your bike communicates with all the sensors and all the things and stuff that makes your bike do what it does on a daily basis. And so we have to program those features into the radio. Right. So yeah, it is in the essence of plug and play. I suppose it is plug and play in the fact that there's no intermediate harnesses. There's no modules to plug in. There's none of that stuff. It uses the factory harness, the factory mounting locations, the factory form factor, all the same things that make the factory radio. It's just you've got this, you know, that's ours has got all the features and things in it that we need.
So I'm just going to make that really super easy for our listeners to use. Basically, what the plug and play part is the harness plugs in from the radio right into the bike. There's no molesting of any wires.
Right.
It plugs in, but you have to flash the bike first. And I think that's where everybody's confused. Why does that have to be flashed? So, but we're going to get to that in a second. It's also the other thing with plug and play that comes along with it is the physical size.
Correct.
It's designed to fit in that factory hard location just like the factory radio.
Correct.
Okay? So, why is that better than like a standard double-din radio and some sort of a pack module or Maestro module that you can add to the bike that allows any radio, like a standard double-din radio you put in your car? Why is it better with the form factor?
Well, you get the factory look, you get the factory feature set, so to say. It's waterproof, whereas if you throw, the most popular would be the Sony 7000, which is a great radio. It's a fantastic radio. Don't get me wrong. It's not waterproof. Right. I don't care what it says.
Right. And basically what it comes down to is you guys have designed a radio for just a bike. You can't take your radio and go put in a car. It's just not going to work, right? Right. So the screen gets a little bit bigger than a standard double din as well, too. So that's kind of your big difference with the form factor that fits there. Than just doing a standard kit and harness, right? So you're going to get then some additional things, which we're going to talk to about features of the bike where you're not necessarily going to get with an aftermarket radio, just a standard one, which makes it super cool. So let's just kind of verify that. I want to hit up for our users one more time because, like I said, I get a lot of phone calls on this. I know you get a lot of phone calls on this. At the rallies, as I'm standing face to face, I get people that want to have a discussion about this, and it's not really a discussion. So what plug and play means with a radio is You can take the bike, it mounts to the factory locations, just like the factory. There's no additional little brackets. It mounts down, and the radiator harness plugs in.
Correct.
But before you do that, you got to flash it to your bike. Okay? And why do you have to flash it to the bike?
Well, every bike is not created equal, depending on the functions or the options that your particular model has, whether you know it's a CVO or a standard. They're all hand controls are not created equal, and we want to program the hand controls so that you can use them to navigate. The idea behind that is safety first, right? If you're driving down the road doing 80 miles an hour and you're trying to touch your screen to change things, it becomes a safety issue. So in order to alleviate that problem, you've got to program your hand controls. Well, there's a few different versions of it, as anybody will see when they go through the iDataLink web portal to do that. And with that being said, being able to customize the hand controls is one of the features that we have. You know, the options are kind of endless on the things that this radio can do and control. And so you need to be able to program those functions. So we can program those functions as an on-screen thing, or we can program them with a button push.
Correct.
And so, so in order to customize it the way that the user needs it or the rider wants it, you got to be able to do that. And that is the one thing outside of the factory plug and the factory 4 screws that you don't have a choice. You have to do that.
Right. So you get some flexibility. You can change the button around to different things. But the main reason why you're flashing is you could have controls on the right of your bike where a bike 2 years newer than yours has them on the left or right.
Correct. Yes.
Or, hey, I've also got the Tour Pack controls.
Right.
So that's why you got to flash it. You got to let the bike know. And if you guys done anything in cars and car audio, you're having to flash things and tell what it is. So it's nothing new. It's just new to the motorcycle community.
Right. You know, and it confuses people, I think, you know, because they're not used to it. They haven't seen this before. Up until this point, there's 2 other brands that make plug-in radios, just like we do. Factory fit, form and function radios, just like we do. Obviously, some of our functions and features are a bit different. Sorry,
my screen went blank. So in the studio, right? So that's what it comes to. You're flashing it so it knows what bike it has and the features of the bike, so the radio can control. And that also allows some stuff on CAN bus for the gauges, which we'll get to too. So that's the reason why. So it is a plug and play. So just because you have to flash it, you're uncomfortable, don't worry about it. Now.
It's easy.
Right. It's easy for if you've been doing it for a while, right? The first time you do it, it's blah, 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 right? So I know that we are going to have a video out here very, very shortly, hopefully within the next couple weeks, step by step on how to flash that radio, because it's really super important. It's super easy. If you do purchase a radio from Vegas Hardbags, we're going to pre-flash it for you anyways before it shows up, so you don't have to worry about it. But where else can they find that information?
So the information is available on the website, diamondaudio.com, under the MSHD14 product page. You can also find the Maestro flashing video on YouTube, Diamond Audio Training Channel. There's quite a few videos on there. They're also on the web page. So if you click on the video on the web page, it takes you directly to our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, so anytime anything new comes out or any new information, or somebody like Jason at Vegas Hardbags puts a video out, tags the Diamond Audio Training Channel, it automatically updates you and lets you know, hey, there might be a feature that you might want to check this out and watch this video, as we are constantly changing the way we do things and adding and adding functions and things. So
everybody like my Beyonce hair? This fan is kind of killing me, but I need it because I'm fat and it's hot in the studio with all these lights and stuff. So you get to look at my little bit of hair thing. Get this mug cut on Friday, so it'll be really nice to get it done for the show. All right, cool. So, so you can go, like I said, we'll have a video out soon, but you can always go to Diamond Audio's webpage. There's some very good walkthrough videos on that. So, what's the difference between flashing the bike and a software update? What is a software update?
So flashing the bike is simply the setup for the hand controls and any of the custom features you want to make the radio do to your bike. Software update is where we're updating the software in the bike, we're adding features, or we're bug fixes or anything like that. That's a software update. Now, the common misconception is, so there's 2 USBs on the radio, and one is labeled for iData only. That means that's just to flash the hand controls. That is not the USB to do the software update. The software update, you put it in your factory USB inside your glove box, like you'd plug in your phone before or anything else. And that's where that's done. Now we will obviously have a video coming soon that's linked to this video that shows you how to do that. It's a very simple process. Takes some time.
It takes some time, and the first few times it's a little awkward because if you haven't done it. But here's the basic thing to understand what that software update does. It's exactly like your cell phone. When your cell phone does an update, it updates bugs and fixes and things of that nature. And I know you guys are constantly, we're going to talk about that in a bit, you guys are constantly updating that radio, fixing bugs and issues and stuff. And we're going to touch base, hopefully, if I remember. I don't know if it's on my notes or not. Hopefully we touch base on that a little bit because I think it's important for everybody to understand this. But before we get to that part, I want to talk about something else here. So the software, just to verify though, it's got to be updated through a thumb drive. How come it's not automatic or you can't do it through Bluetooth? So
the reason why we can't stream it through Bluetooth or have it automatically update when it comes close to Wi-Fi is that the updates are very large, and they need to be done. The operating system of the radio recognizes software updates only through the factory USB.
Okay.
So
and if you just want automatically to Wi-Fi, if you just popped in the garage or something, you turn the bike off in the middle of it, then you could
damage the radio.
You could break the radio, which means we got to unlock it, which means we got to come in, and then you don't have your thing to ride. So we've had a couple questions on that, so I thought I would show that out.
Yeah.
And Bluetooth, it's just
they're so big. It's
the files are huge. That latest one that we were doing at the rally
3.8 gigs
was taking a good 10 minutes to get it done.
At least.
So that's the reason why. And Bluetooth, I get everybody. I understand, guys. You want to be able to just go Bluetooth and go blunk, but that's not the way that works.
You'd be there for hours trying to do it through Bluetooth.
Right, correct. So that's the reason why it's the most efficient way of getting it done. Yeah. So you'll be able to download those on the website, which has the most updates.
Correct.
The current updates. You can download that on a thumb drive and then put it in. And we'll have a video as well too that showcases that, like I said, because it makes things. So it was very interesting. As shortly after your guys' radio came out, there's a lot of hoopla, and there was another shop out there who's tight with a manufacturer, and he sells a lot of those radios, and it's a great radio. It's a great shop, right? I'm not talking this, but I was very, very, very how do I say this the proper way? I was very pissed off when I saw the video. So I'm sure you at some point
it was disappointing.
Who saw that? Well, as another online retailer coming on board, and my knowledge of audio for 20-some years in this industry, right? And all the awards and all the things I've built and the 73 magazine articles and blah, 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 and a training school I run. It basically, to me, I'm just going to say it outright, man, it was basically a piss-poor selling thing to try to make it, you don't want to buy this great radio, you want to buy this new radio coming out. It's old school tactics, and it just kind of failed. The reason why it failed, in my opinion, was you're trying to do a comparison. So this video compared a factory radio, brand B, and then Diamond Audio, right? And you're trying to compare it to all three and make it look worse than it is. And when you do that, you just look like a fool, right? So at the end of the day, and I was kind of honest with this with quite a few people, at the end of the day, I see this as somebody who's a trainer and is truly loves audio and everything that goes along with our industry. The thing was disappointing me. I'm sorry, I keep looking down because I'm trying to control. The thing that was, I'm trying to control my feelings on this. The thing that was sad to me, that was really, like I said, one guy trying to make it so he doesn't lose sales on his radio that's coming out, right, a retailer. And that's how it is. Like, we're just going to make shit up, and then hopefully people bite it. It basically was it's in November right now. Not quite November, it's October. So November's coming up. It's kind of like all the political ads I get right now.
Right.
It's nothing positive. It's nothing like, hey, instead of concentrating on what that radio you sell does, you want to sit there and try to tear apart another radio.
Right.
But I want to talk about a few things because it's basically comes down to, as you guys will see with my channel, it's all science and math. Like, you can't argue science and math, right? Yep. So if you're going, like, one of the things they did was the startup time. They talked about, because that's one thing about the factory. Startup is horrible. It's like I could go cook breakfast while I'm writing that radio boot.
If you had a 13 and down, but the 14 to 18, it was really bad.
Right. So you were waiting for the factory, and then the
GTS got a little
competitor
better.
Brand B, it shows up, and there's, they said, I don't remember what it was, but it's so slow, it's even worse than the factory. So the problem with this is, when you do those tests and you're going to throw those on a video, you got to make sure that you need to do the test right? So it was funny when I watched it, because what transpired, what they don't tell you in the video is the first time you put it in the bike, it takes a while. It's got to read all the CAN bus signals. Right? Yep. So it does take a long time. But any other time after that,
it's instant.
You turn it on, it comes on, it's playing. Right?
The second it's on.
So it's better than everybody else's. So that was kind of a disappointment when I saw that, because it was like, it's just misinformation.
Yeah,
right?
and the reason why it's instant is unlike the other two available brands plus the factory one is these radios, and a lot of people don't know this, are dual CPU processors.
Yeah.
So it's a real deal computer running in the background.
Yeah, it's running in the background, and it's made about
very powerful.
Yeah, and it does a lot of stuff which you guys can see.
Yeah,
so the other crazy part about it to me was the sound quality of the radio, even though it's got a DSP built into it, the sound quality of the radio, you guys spend a lot of money and a lot of energy in that. And I know we talked about that when you're developing it, and it just doesn't get the credit for it.
I agree with you.
If you put, I would take that sound quality of radio compared to some higher end radios for cars. Like it's got some nice chipsets.
Well, and that was the point. That was the whole idea behind that, was that we wanted to make a factory looking radio that had every option you could possibly use, right? And then we wanted it to sound like a sound as a SQ radio for a Harley Davidson. That's all it is. It's a sound quality radio for a Harley Davidson. Right.
And you guys nailed the park, in my opinion. Yeah. So that was disappointing seeing that. The other thing they did was this voltage out RCAs where I don't know if you guys ever saw the video. I'll point out something now, and it just looked bad, right? So the Diamond radio will do how much on the RCA preset?
6.2 RMS, fully driven. Now, remember that we can get into this feature set that they forgot to go in and talk about, right? Which was one of the things that we did on the radio was all phones are not created equal. Right? Especially, and all sources are not created equal.
How you download your music's not created equal.
Correct. Everything about audio, because we're audio guys, right? Been there, done that a few times, right? All of us.
Correct. 1,000%.
Right. So one of the things that we put in our radio, because all things are not created, especially on the Android side, Apple's simple.
Right.
It's one phone, one iOS, one Bluetooth output voltage, Wi-Fi output voltage. All the things are created equal. Android doesn't matter. It could be 6 different phones, 6 different.
Yeah.
So
and that's one of the things is, well, you Android users out there, you're so much better than Apple. Look, Apple's a stable platform and it does a lot of things really good. I'm not saying Android's a bad phone at all.
No.
But I always laugh at people that sit there and say, "Oh, Android did this technology first and this first."
Yeah.
When you have an open source platform, you don't have control over things like that.
Right.
And that's where Apple makes sure.
So what we did, which was of course not highlighted in the video, we should say, was that we put a source gain. So out of the box, it's at what? We have it at 6, right? So at 6,
it's down.
At 6, which is in the middle, goes from 1 to 12. And 6 in the middle, it's 3.2, 3.4 volts RMS.
Right.
Which is fine.
Right.
Which is more than most radios out there on the market. I don't care who you are. Anyways, if you crank it all the way up, it's 6.2 volts.
Yeah.
Now, we needed to make it adjustable because
you don't know what source you get.
Yeah, you don't know the source. And here's the other thing, too. Is not only did we give it source adjustment for the phone, but we gave you the radio.
Right.
Sirius XM.
Right.
Bluetooth.
Right.
All of that.
And every high-end radio or every upper-end, mid to low upper radio, even for car audio stuff.
Does that.
Has that.
Right.
So it's...
Well, guess what didn't have that up until when we came out with ours, right? So... Anyway.
So, but what it comes down to is it was just kind of crap because
it was Bush League.
It was. We're just gonna make stuff. But if I remember right on the video, it was 5.99. Right.
Right. Sorry.
If I remember right, I could be wrong, but I believe it was 5.99. I was like, really, seriously?
Yeah.
Do you know the math equation on 0.2 of a volt?
Right.
And then they compared it to the comparable one, which would be your guys' competitor, and they're like, "Oh, look, it gets all the way up to 5 volts, or
5 volts,
or 6 volts,
clipped."
Well, and he even made a comment at the time like, "Oh, it buzzes because it really doesn't like it's clipping. The radio's freaking out inside. That's why you could hear buzz when he was doing it."
Yeah.
So just because it can do it, right? I mean, you can, your car, when you redline it, it'll go in that red line, it'll go all the way up on that RPM gauge. You ain't gonna run it there all day,
right?
Because it's having a problem, right? Well, so it's kind of that. So I kind of laughed at that one too because I thought it was stupid. Which brings us to the next stupid one. Like, I'm just going to kind of pick it apart because this was a lot of misinformation. And I thought I know you guys reached out to the guy. I tried to reach out to the manufacturer that he was promoting for to say, hey, man, you guys should tell him just take it down, right? It just doesn't make sense. At the end of the day, he lost sales for himself because I personally feel if you know anything about anything and can figure this out, you made yourself look like a fool, and you're going to lose customers over that.
Right.
The other competitor is going to lose customers over it, and you guys are going to lose potential customers over it, obviously, with your new radio because of the misinformation. So no one wins.
Right.
right? It's like I said, it's just dirty politics is really what it comes down to. So one of the other things they talk about was brightness. And I laugh at this brightness thing. So I want everybody to understand something. So now as this channel grows, you got to understand what I am and the things to do. You know, I like to call myself a little bit of an audio engineer. I know people laugh at that shit, but I understand signals really well.
Right.
There's hardly a few other people out there I know in our industry that understands that, right?
Right, of course.
And then a lot of people
which is, by the way, is an issue in the motorcycle industry.
Right, and then understand tuning, right? But then I also bring a rule to it, like I understand what the rider wants.
Sure, right.
Right, and I'm not just going to force something on a rider. I know what you guys are looking for and I want, and I can explain things so I run a training school, right?
Right.
One of the other things is I'm also really well known for my fabrication skills, right?
Right.
And then understanding how things are built and not. So let's talk about the brightness really quick. So the brightness thing, I want to talk to you guys. I was a little long-winded, but I wanted you guys to understand it, so you just don't think I'm just making shit up and looking shit on the internet. No, there's science and math behind everything I do, and you guys will see that on the channel. Okay, the brightness. So if I, like my Toyota Tundra, when Toyota develops that, they put the seat. Now the seat can only do tilt on my truck. It really doesn't go up and down. Right. Some cars can go up and down. But when they designed my truck and they got the radio over here, and there's a roof over my radio, and some of them sunroofs, but they got the shades, and then they got the windows. They figure out roughly, I don't know the exact one, but they're looking at saying, hey, the average height in America, where this is going to be sold at, is like 5'5" to 5'9". That's that range where most guys are. I mean, it might be 5'11" nowadays, right? And the majority of the population is in that range, so they're going to make sure that that radio, at that height distance, you can see it. You're not going to get glare from the windows. They designed all that and include angles, and they suck it back in so the there's all point, just not for design look, but they do all that to maximize the driver experience with the radio as a general thing, right? Right. Now, if you hop into my Toyota truck, you're just like me. You're going to get some weird glares and all kinds of stuff, right? Right. So you have to understand that, because on a bike, and especially with a form-fit radio, it's in one position. We can't control where that position is, and it's really low, and you're on top of it, right? Which is kind of funny to me. Yep. And so we understand that, right? We get that, and there's a and there's no roof over it. Right. So I know here in the Vegas sunshine, right? So if I'm riding a bike, right, high noon, and the sun's beat behind me, it's gonna be a hard time seeing that radio. It's gonna be a hard time seeing any radio, right? Right. So I laugh when people complain, and they brought up about brightness. But here's the cool part is, I just want you guys to understand technology in that. You can only do so much with something that's outside the air. It's no different than a marine radio, right? And they've done a very, very good job on the brightness. And you can actually touch a little icon. It looks like a little sun up there. And you can drag it and you can decrease it. So when you're in the nighttime when it's super bright, you don't have to worry about just a trigger and it dims it down 20%. I can lower that whole thing so it's not glaring at me at night. I know some of you guys really like that brightness radio. I don't like it at night. If you get old in my age, the brightness kills you, right? So it's cool to be able to just pop down the fly, and that's at the top of the screen on the right-hand side. You just hit that, and you just pull that down to where you want it, and then daytime you can adjust it back up. That's right. So you guys did address the brightness issue, and
it's a 1,000-nit screen. It's pretty bright.
Yeah.
If anybody wants a good laugh, turn the box over and read what the brightness level is.
Yeah.
There's an Easter egg in there.
Yeah, exactly. So the radio itself has some, just like any other radio, well, not all of them, 99.9% of the radios. There are a few radios over the years that haven't had, but all the Harley radios, it's got what we call deck power. Okay, it's common terms as deck power. There's 4 channels, front and rear. Right.
Internal
power. Amplifier power. And I be careful what you say, because we had this conversation earlier today. Since I know a lot about sound and how things are tested, that test was done incorrectly. We're actually I'm gonna do a test on that to showcase that later, because as I think people need to understand that. Right. That was all just another applicable thing. So what is yours does on an RMS value internal power that's been tested?
28 at 4 ohms, 52 at 2.
There you go. And I'm going to show that with an oscilloscope, the old school way, which every audio engineer uses, not some amp dyno thing that's not designed for this stuff.
Yeah, the amp dyno doesn't do
the amp dyno. The amp dyno's got a purpose, but for general thing, there's no engineers that sit there and constantly do it. It's a great piece. The amp dyno does a lot of great things. Sure. But that doesn't work really well in the field, in my opinion. I love the guy who designed it. I think it's an awesome piece of machinery. But
it's great.
Before this issue, it was done wrong, and we're gonna debunk that one, because I know that. Yeah. The other next item they brought up, which was really kind of interesting to me, was they talked about the Maestro, and I think what it was is he was jealous, right? So if you're trying to compare to a new radio coming out, and their Maestro, just like their old radios, is outboard, and it was always a pain in the ass. I know this is one of the things you talked to us about and designed this. It's always a pain with this little pig cord to get it, and then it's not waterproof, right? So you're trying to find a place to put the thing you flash. You guys actually put it inside the radio.
Right, of course.
So now it's waterproof,
but
makes total sense.
But do we know why we put it inside the radio? Does everybody know why we did that? I mean, I can tell
waterproof?
you. I can tell you my reason why.
Space.
This is what most people probably don't know, right?
Yeah, tell me.
At one point, you and I, we were a customer of said brand because there was no other options available, and we needed something similar to it. And what does that mean? So I had a lot of experience putting those radios in.
Yeah.
And I knew exactly what I liked about it, and I knew exactly what I didn't like about it. And one of the biggest pain in the asses, pardon my French,
that's okay,
was the Maestro module being outboard.
Yeah.
So we partnered with iDatalink.
Right.
And we said, hey, kind of a stupid question, but can we stick it on the board? There's an awful lot of space in there. And they said, sure. Now, I got to clear this up for everybody. Our Maestro module is an RR2, but it is not the RR2 you can purchase from Maestro.
Correct.
And iDatalink currently. It is customized specifically for us. So for those of you who thought you were updating it via the Bluetooth, I'm telling you now, it's completely impossible because guess what it doesn't have? It's missing the frickin' Bluetooth chip.
So you guys shrunk that down to get inside the radio.
Of course we did.
So you stripped all the BS you don't need.
We stripped all the stuff we didn't need.
Their Maestro platform works for cars. So
works
when
for
the motorcycle, they stripped all that stuff. So they worked with you. So I want to clarify because that video said it was an older version.
Right, correct, which it's not. It's the most up-to-date, crazy wazoo Maestro module you can find, but it's customized for us.
Right, but I'll just even if it was an older version, it still does everything. I'm not saying it is.
Yeah, regardless.
Who cares?
Exactly. Right, it wouldn't matter. Who gives a shit? Sorry.
So that one killed me. So basically what it comes down to is the Maestro is not an older version. It's a custom one. It's based off this platform, but custom for you guys because you guys stripped all the crap you don't need.
And it's on board, so it's waterproof.
It's waterproof. You're not saving $50 a month to replace your module every quarter because it gets wet, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you wash your bike. And it
saves space, right? So especially in your roguelite customers. Roguelites.
You don't got a lot of space. Once you put 1 amp in there, you're kind of screwed for space on that thing. So, and to be honest with you, the not trying to tell the brand whatever how to do their job, but the harness is too small.
Correct.
And so you got this much space, and you got to try to loop that thing around the side. There's nowhere to put it.
It sucks. All right, on to that one. That doesn't make sense.
Right. But
the
again,
other thing was
who cares, right?
Yeah. The other thing in the video is, and it's been a while since I've seen the video, so I could be a little bit wrong on this part. So either DSP was not mentioned at all, or it was just flown over.
I think it was just. They just mentioned it, but didn't get
talk
into
about
it
to the features.
And the reason why that was done was the retailer doesn't really understand what DSP does and how it can benefit a motorcycle.
Yeah, so we'll get to the DSP a little bit later, but I just want to point out in the video it wasn't really gone over because it's one of the coolest features on the radio.
It makes the radio what the radio is, right? It's this cool thing, and then it's got this other cool feature that you're already buying and putting outboard. Why wouldn't it made more sense to stick the damn thing in the radio? So that's what we did.
Correct. And then they didn't even talk about price, which I think was
no, not at all. No,
because that why talk about when you're comparing things? Go, hey, I'm going to be a comparison. I'm going to do these 3 things. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to talk about price.
Right. Well, because it would have brought to light some features that are less desirable.
Yeah.
For a much higher price point.
So here's what it is. We're going to end this video today on that part. We're going to talk about the other features of the radio in the video number 2, which will be out a couple days later after video 1. But we're going to stop it right there for you guys. We'll get through that part, so we just, you guys take a break and stuff.
Would we like to mention the price?
No?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Mention the price for 14 and up.
14 and up, $12.99.
$12.99, not $13.99?
Nope, $12.99.
$12.99. Perfect. It's a bargain for everything. But you don't know everything it does yet because we haven't covered it. We're going to do that on our next video.
Yep.
So we want to thank you guys. We're going to end this video if you're going to do a comparison video, please
make sure it's fair.
Just make fair. Don't do it in a political thing. You just look like, to me, you look like a fool. And like I said earlier in the video, I think it has 3 things. You lose customers because you look silly in front of people. The other manufacturers was compared to, they're going to lose stuff because they look silly because this guy's pushing it. And then you guys, the newcomer on board with the radios, are not going to get as many customers. It's just an old.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
It doesn't make sense, man. There's enough negative in the world. Let's just be honest with it. And we're here to say that it's not. We'll cover this in the next video, but I know you guys will never ever say, "Oh, ours is better than theirs."
No, I don't.
You guys talk about your features, functions,
would I do
and
that?
then what you want to do, right? It doesn't make sense. So we let the haters be haters. So,
And
anyways,
we let the radio do the talking.
so check out our video number 2. We're going to go over other features of that. It'll be up shortly. So thank you, Ryan, for coming in, and we'll see you on the next video. Remember to hit like and subscribe. It helps us with the channel. We appreciate you guys.